All right, that was our intro video. Welcome to the CornPod. I'm your host, Liquid Swan, and we're joined by Shieldmaiden and the Laughing Man of Sunflower Society Chief Editor. Um, how you guys doing?
Good, good. How are you?
Not bad.
Hi, everyone.
It's early in the morning, but we can handle. Hope everyone in England is having a nice, lovely afternoon.
Hey, the sun has come out. It's a good day to be alive.
Yeah. So we're going to be going through the recent edition, as we usually do, of the CornPod.
Issue 4,
But
it should be.
issue 4, yeah, it was the second episode though. But just before we do that, the Laughing Man, how are you doing? And can you introduce yourself?
Good. How are you? I am. I don't know. I started a meme page, and then I made a magazine at one point, with the help of a few different people. Unfortunately, I haven't made that for probably a couple of years. Well, about a year. Sorry. The last edition we made was a year ago, May, and it was Freedom in an Unfree World. It's free, available on www.Sunflower Society's website, I think. Let me just double check right
Yeah,
now.
put it in the private chat. Put it in the private chat, and
Yeah.
I'll post it up.
Alternatively, you can just check out our Telegram channel. That's what we're known for, is t.me/Sunflower Society, and you can check that out whenever you like. But anyway, that's just enough about me. We're mostly known for memes, let's say.
Yeah, that's cool. I've seen some of them. They're pretty sweet. Just closing. Got to open up the magazine here.
I would say to compare ourselves to Corn Creek, from what I've read of Corn Creek, is Corn Creek is very cozy. We are much more Nicklandian. I don't know what word I'm looking for, but it's early, so
yeah,
You
fair
have
enough.
politics. You've got politics in your mag. I'm standing there with a sword and a shield to keep politics out of mine.
Yes, I very much like what Corn Creek is doing. I was just reading through it over the past couple days, and it's very, very nice.
It needs to be a white pill, place to escape.
Exactly. I mean, that's kind of where I've always thought I wanted to be, but we're still very much political, whereas you went apolitical, which is great. There's not a lot of that floating around these days, let's say, and so having a space for that is really big, actually.
Sweet.
So what do you guys think of the front cover? Because I love this bird.
I love it.
That's pretty cool. I remember it's been around for a while. Was it ever a cover, or I've seen the art before though?
Well, I use the art like in stuff promoting the
promos.
CornPod. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
But he's just so cute. Like, how can one not like him? He's so enthusiastic here with his little goggles on.
Exactly. All right, so what we'll do is we'll go through each piece, and you guys can give your take on it, or Shieldmaiden actually could help out and talk about the contributors. Some are real people, or living people.
Oh, they're all real people. Yes, they're all real people. I don't have any AI writing stories.
Yeah.
So this piece of art, Roxandra, she's really talented. So she likes horses as well. So that's one of her horses. And then in her interview question, she referenced that Bible verse. So I went and found it. Basically, that Bible verse is a description of a horse, basically.
That's cool. It's nice. My daughter just started taking up horse riding. Actually, I hope it doesn't get too expensive.
Good luck with that. It's not cheap. I grew
Yeah.
up around them, and beautiful creatures, very expensive, very difficult, to clean up after as well.
Hmm.
But yeah, the
I want to have
I
a
thought
horse
that was
riding weave one of these days.
a weave.
Yeah, like get everyone
Yeah,
together to go on a weave, and we can all ride horses, or at least try.
That'd be fun. Absolutely.
it would be kind of cool going through
But
like
yeah,
the
the reason
English
I liked
countryside or something.
Roxandra's work. Yeah, the
Mm.
reason I like Roxandra's work was just because, like, look how good it is, and like people do impressionism and all that stuff these days, but she's drawing something that's like looks so realistic.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was going to
How did
comment
you
because I didn't realize she did it earlier, but I really liked her art, and we'll get to that when we get to her. But
go ahead?
oh, sorry, but just the great her pulling that out of the Bible verse and everything that she had discussed in there, and then like combining that with her art, I just thought was really impressive. It impressed upon me, I guess, is a better way of saying, because impressive is so commonly used.
Talented. How did you come across her?
Well, basically, I follow Juniper Tree. As you know, she did the cover art of issue 1. So I follow her on Twitter. And then all of the artists had this day that was like portfolio day. They all shared about 4 pictures. So Juniper Tree shares the 4 pictures of Roxandra's art. And I liked the look of them. And her account was quite small back then. So I reached out to her and she was happy to do it. But yeah, her Twitter has really blown up. I think she's close to like 1,000 subscribers now. And it was only a month or 2 ago that I asked her to do this, and she only had like 200 like followers back then. So I mean, I think everyone sees her work and is impressed with it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It kind of reminds me of like the like old West sort of art. When the West is being settled in the U.S. in some ways, anyways, but more maybe real.
Yeah. We can skip the contents page. Nothing exciting there.
Well, that's my favorite.
Why?
I'm just
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
That I get told that me and that dog share a physiognomy. I've also been told that this is me and my lesbian lover. And also, I'm actually the dog and not the person.
Looks like a
That would
very
be
nice
pretty
dog.
cool. Yeah. What kind of dog is that?
He's a mixture of a few different breeds. I don't actually remember
Oh
what
yeah.
they are, but his name is Yogi.
It's like panda bear and red panda.
Yeah, it's
Do you want to
something
go?
like that. I'm not sure if he... Sorry?
Do you want to go over this bit or?
Not really necessary. I mean, we don't need to read the
Okay.
magazine out to everyone.
Yeah, the reader can go through this, so get on it. All right, so here's the first story. I
Yeah,
believe
you better tell
this
us
is
about
mine.
this one.
Yeah. Well, and obviously the picture is kind of a secret, hidden reference, but I mean, if you put the dates together in the story, you can figure out what happened. Well, what do you guys think of this one? I mean, don't polish me too good or bad.
It reminded
Well,
me. Sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I wrote this pretty. This was pretty quickly. I wrote this pretty quickly at the time. But yeah, it was kind of fun. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it kind of reminded me, for like years and years. I used to read these like science fiction anthologies of like all these like Kurzweil, all these people. It kind of reminded me a lot of that kind of style, which in my opinion, is a good thing. Some people may disagree, but I really enjoyed that. I kind of thought I was left a little bit confused by the end because maybe I'm just not very in tune, but because of that picture, maybe that picture was on purpose to be confusing, but it did leave me with a very I was like, huh, kind of feeling at the end. Not a negative way, but it's just like it left me thinking.
Yeah, I tried to make it like a little bit confusing on purpose. I didn't want to say it straight up, but yeah. I guess we can give it away. It's been on for about half a month now. But like Charlie is a goofy guy, and he accidentally assassinates JFK. So there, that's that story. What do you think,
The
Shieldmaiden?
graphics advisor was laughing so damn hard at that picture.
What this one?
Yes, that he just
okay,
found it hilarious. You can even see the dead body draped there in the car.
I still, I think his head just did that,
He had a bad head cold.
Yeah.
I think the CIA did it, but I don't know.
Now, that's just what happens when you hold in a sneeze too hard.
That's too good. Oh man, rip in peace. Let's move on.
Gone too soon from this world.
Yeah. And we're moving on to Darklands by Nathan, our friend Nathan CJ Hood, friend of the show, friend of the magazine. I listened to this last night, but I'll let you guys give me your take on it. Oh, here's the artwork. Is that one of ours?
So that piece I found online. It is a painting. It's a painting done by some, artist, but I don't know. I've been thinking whether I should like reference the artworks and their authors. Maybe that's something I need to add to the magazine as well. But yeah, that is a legitimate. I think it's an oil painting. But it was like this story was very hard to find a picture for. So finally, I found that one. I was relieved.
It's true. It kind of reminded me of one that I'm doing that's coming up, a little bit, but more epic. Anyways, here we go. So, what did you think of this one, Laughing Man?
I really enjoyed it. I'm a big fan of fantasy. I'm a big fan of like, I know maybe nowadays like Dungeons and Dragons kind of soy or whatever, but I really enjoyed this. It gave me a really enjoyable feeling of Lord of the Rings, Dungeons and Dragons, and Diablo. My influences obviously are very heavily on like video games and stuff growing up with that, and this really gave me a good vibe of Diablo, which Diablo is very like dark gothic, and I really enjoyed that feeling about this. And then the other thing I would say is it kind of reminded me as well of Beowulf, reading Beowulf, the fights with the monsters and the comet, everything about that, just this great dark gothic energy about it.
Yeah, no, that's true. I I did pick up on those themes as well. I mean, clearly, it was well written. It was quite long. I was impressed with the length. Sometimes I find it hard to keep when I'm writing to keep like a flow for this long. But he did a good job of not overwriting.
And it
Kept
left
it
me
very,
wanting.
very dense.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, because I think like with his YouTube channel, like I believe this is the first piece of like fiction he's written, but like he's all of his videos he does all about history, King Arthur Day recently and so on. But by the time he comes to writing a fiction story, he's really well versed in storytelling. So I think that's why it comes across so well.
That's just very cool. It's brand new. There's no this isn't referenced to anything else. I guess his thing.
Okay, because I was curious because there was things in there that I was like, okay, I'd need to like learn more, or left me questioning. Like, okay, why are they calling each other sister son? Why are they, why are they looking for the comet?
That's because sister son means nephew, like son of your sister.
Oh, okay, all right.
That's
I was like, is there some deeper meaning that? No, that makes sense. Okay.
It's reference to the even in Sweden. they still call they call their nephew like sister son or brother son or mother father or father mother sort of thing or mother mother. It's like a Scandinavian or let's say Northern European way of doing it. And that's what Anglo-Saxons were basically before they came over. Like they were a little different tribe, but this is reference to Anglo-Saxon
Right.
or
Yeah,
or
that makes
English.
sense.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I thought
actually
it was
slightly over the
cool.
word count, but I allowed it because it was so good.
Well, because it's Nathan Hood.
Um,
I'm just kidding. He's a good guy.
Is that
he
also a
was a second
painting, or is
guest.
that
no, that's a photo.
okay? I'm that it's very striking. So I guess I thought it was like a very interesting painting.
I mean, it's an interesting story, but then as you can imagine, trying to find art to match it is difficult because any random forest won't do. Because generally forests are pleasant, but we can't have a pleasant forest for this story, can we? So
Yeah, it's almost a
I
recall to like the
almost
Germanic.
despaired of it.
Well, if you think about it, the Indo-Europeans, or sometimes people call them Aryans, they migrated from the east, and there was a lot of bogs and forests there, depending where you were. But then there was also plains. So as they went through like Belarus and stuff, in the sort of Slav areas, it was very boggy. It's still boggy. They've dammed a lot of it up, and the USSR did a lot of terraforming to make it well farmable. And as they came through, I wonder if these legends sort of built up through that migration, or based on places they had been, or maybe in relation to like where they first came, which was like open plains. I wonder if as they went across, because these basically people were basically like the sons of Rohan, from Lord of the Rings, and then end up becoming the Saxons and the Scandinavians and the Jutes and such. I wonder if that was that journey sort of became these stories, or these stories came from that journey, or maybe when they settled, these people kind of like had myths about like the dangers of the forest, because to keep the children from going out and basically getting eaten by wild animals. Makes me
No
think,
one wants
anyways.
to eat rivals. But there's no. Yeah, I don't think you consider the creatures in this to be wild animals. I'm not sure how you would classify them.
Well, I just mean
The
the forest itself.
You mean in the story?
Well, they're
The
not
creatures
really
in this
monsters.
story?
Yeah, like they're not monsters,
Yeah.
but they're not really human.
Well, they're
not.
from, at least from the story, like they're human that have abandoned the light lord, or abandoned their humanity towards the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I thought of them as like ghouls, or maybe werewolfish.
I suppose you call them creatures.
Miserable.
Well, maybe they were banished Slavs that had to go live in the woods because the Slavic tribes kicked them out. Like Prison Island, but it's like the forest,
Yeah.
That did happen. There were people like that. Like, it's a totally different era, right? So
I mean, people had to carry weapons and be totally armed and everything. Just going for a quick trip between two towns.
That sounds like too much effort.
Well, you'd be
raided. That's why most
killed.
people did not travel much, and if you did like caravan, right?
Yeah, armed guard. Yeah. And the raiders knew that the routes that people would take, so it'd just be insta death if you didn't have some sort of like head on your shoulders.
If I became the raider, do you think I could survive?
Well, you could until you got caught. Then you'd be probably tortured and executed, like mutilated.
You'd be an outlaw.
Yeah.
I mean, even in Pax Romana, people had to defend themselves.
Yeah.
And they were much better than the later medieval era in terms of keeping bandits and the like in check.
Yeah, actually, that's the reason why feudalism even kind of took off, is because peasants were like, well, why do you keep paying these raiders to go away when we could just have a raider boss, and then just pay them every month?
Yeah. Well, I think also a lot of them were leftovers from the Roman era. Like like the word Duke and the word
Ducks.
yeah, they came from like Roman like structure, legal structure, or like ruling structure.
Hierarchy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on. We're on to the H.P. Lovecraft story, and this is obviously a famous author, not not living now. So, what do you guys think of this one? Let's start with Sunflower.
I enjoy it. H.P. Lovecraft. I regretfully do not know. I have not actually read as much of him as I would like. Many of my friends are very, very into him. And he's obviously extremely influential. I thought it was interesting to read in the aspect of, in the modern era, how the foreign culture, the foreign person or whatever, is generally treated with interest and excitement, whereas in this it's like the outside thing is actually dangerous. It's an older way of thinking. The outside thing is dangerous. The outside thing is actually possibly monstrous. It can cause madness. I thought that was very interesting exploration of that kind of mindset.
It was at one stage given the title of the White Ape, but Lovecraft didn't name it that. Someone else did.
So it's sort of like a reference to like the transformation people go under because of where they live.
It's more like someone's got some weird genetics going on. And I've tried to hint at things with the imagery.
That's interesting. Well, sorry.
No, that was a reader suggested this, so that's the thing I like. People don't have to just write for the magazine; they can suggest stories as well. It gives more variety that way.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt. It also brings it back to before, I suppose, maybe people that wouldn't be exposed to it. Also, I assume it's not a bad idea. It's a very good idea. Okay.
Oh yeah, I've just checked online. The White Ape. It was when it published in Weird Tales in 1924, but he was disgusted by that. And then he commented, "If I ever entitled a story The White Ape, there would be no ape in it."
That's pretty funny. And here we have an ad,
give the lead away. I thought that was a great advertisement.
It's a friend, Count Lang. He has a website. Radloot sells I believe just cards right now. Is that true?
Sometimes he sells posters as well. I'm not sure what he has available right now, but I know he does. Some of these card designs, he has them in poster form.
Yeah, that's right.
But yes, he does work on the magazine as well. That may be why his ad is so large and prominent.
Yeah, it's our what do you call it? Our Norwegian friend. Very good guy. These cards are really cool. The only problem for us, Sunflower, is that we can't buy them because they don't ship to USA right now. I think they'd ship bulk orders.
That's a long way. Yeah. Well, maybe bulk orders.
I think, maybe he could ship, but it's the cost. Like, you guys aren't going to want to pay double something.
Yeah, it's not really. Yeah, worth it for him or us probably. Like you said, would probably, if we did bulk and then resold, if we had a market over here, we could maybe try. We should. I know a guy. Maybe we should discuss it with Dimes of Blood Satellite. He runs Good Suffer over in North America, so we could possibly. We'll talk after. We'll talk later. But there's some ideas I have.
Yeah, they're cool cards. Apparently, really good quality. Like they're like those tarot or tarot cards or whatever. So
tarot,
yeah, they're nice. But I want to get my hands on some.
He's trying to make his stuff to last and not be cheap.
Yeah,
cheap and falling apart. It's a good paper and that kind of thing.
Divination. That looks great.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. We went through this last week. Had him on my channel, so if anybody's interested in learning about him, he was on just last week. Here we go to Sir Walter Raleigh. Is this
So
this
basically,
is
the
new guy?
Revenge is a ship. So this is the story of that ship during the Spanish Armada, and it lasted for 2 days before they captured it. But yeah, this is the story of its last legs.
What do you think of? Did you give this one a good read, Sunflower?
I did read through it. It was a bit of a fast read because I was running out of time at that or like at the time. But I enjoyed it because it was. I've always enjoyed naval battles and the stories of British Armada. Destroying. Mostly, I've read a lot of Napoleonic era stuff, so this is a little different because if it was fighting the Spanish, that would have been what 16 something.
It would have been the Elizabethan, yeah.
Yeah, which is a very interesting era, and obviously we know what happened to the Armada. It was destroyed in a great wind, but
well, it's funny because Sir Francis Drake, he was fighting them, right? And and their orders were to just like slowly pick them off. Because I guess the Spanish didn't have the experienced sailors that the British did, so they would kind of come up from behind, and they would cross their back and then shoot the cannons as they cross them. So the cannonballs would go rolling down the alleys of the ship all the way down, like causing who knows how much chaos below decks. And then, but these privateers essentially, like Drake, would like stop, sort of pull over after they disable the ship, and then raid it while the Armada is making its way. And the people on the coast are currently watching this. And but yeah, so it ended up working out in the end, but they kept like stopping to like raid the gold in each ship, and they weren't making great progress all the time. But it's funny how they were like, yeah, England will be fine. We're just gonna like steal this gold here.
Hey, you gotta get yours, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, most pirates were not pirates; they were privateers, and so they were raiding each other, right?
Yeah, that's true. Shieldmaiden, your take?
Well, I will be perfectly honest. As a woman, this is not, my first choice of reading material. But yes, I want variety to the magazine, and the English writing is not too old-fashioned, and I thought it would be of interest to some people. Mostly
is this
men,
not
I suppose.
So is this the this? I thought this was like a nickname, Sir Walter. I know it's a real name too, but this is a.
That is not a pen name. This is actually from what the author himself wrote back in the whatever dates he was alive.
Okay, I wasn't aware of this piece.
This is a genuine. It's the genuine thing. It wasn't written this year or recently.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a submission. That would have been interesting, but that's cool. Yeah, that's probably why it comes. When I was reading, I was like, okay, well, this guy's a little different.
Yeah, because
look
at the style of English. It's very old-fashioned. I don't think anyone writes like that today.
Yeah. All right, so we'll go through this. Now we have Roxandra. And
yes, so this
is the woman we're talking to her. Okay, cool.
Yeah, she got the horse on the inside of the front cover. That's right.
And this, when I first saw this, I thought it was like a photo or whatever, or like a photo of a column, but it's second take revealed it was art. What do you guys think?
It was really good, interesting formatting her pictures in, because so far I've used to like paintings with a decided outline, but these ones they fit differently onto the page because they're not the picture, like, this is just the columns and the bird. There's no background in it and so on. So
Mhm.
it makes the layout on the page look a bit different.
Yeah, it must be hard to balance that as the editor, to make things work. Because obviously nothing ever done is like made for, well, other than maybe the writing, but the art is never like made for a magazine necessarily, and because the artist sort of just does their thing, and then you're like, well, how do I present this? And well, I see you've done a pretty decent job, but was there more to this image that you had to sort of cut out to fit in, or
No, that's the whole thing.
oh, it is okay. Well, I guess that could be a problem that one could
Because
run into,
when
but
I look through, like, usually artists allow me to look through their work, so I can kind of find pictures that look good and would fit as
yeah,
well.
yeah. Like if there's,
And then
you
I
wouldn't put like
can
anime.
move. No, 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 no. But I can move the words around as well. So if a picture is a funny shape, or the text is more fluid. But yes,
Mm,
this line here is in watercolor.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I
Uh,
really like the art. Very striking.
that's pretty good.
So is
And this
this?
is your interview with her. Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
she mentions in the interview that is the Russian method. So I don't know. I guess I've never really like dove deep into the Russian method or anything, but um, it's got a very different look to it than a lot of the things that we see today.
Hmm. So this would have been pre USSR, obviously, because it's the Imperial Academy.
Oh,
That's
true. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, the USSR was more into this. They called it socialist realism,
Yes, I've
which
seen those paintings.
that's like the ultimate like Reddit.
It's always like a bunch of like peasants and a tractor in a field. It's never. It's like that's it over and over again.
Looking up towards the future.
Yeah.
But this is more like this is more like the, I don't want to say true Russian spirit, but more in line with actual Russia, not the temporary Western regime that was sort of foisted upon it by the likes of intellectual Reddit larpers from the early century, early 20th century. Yeah, oh, and she's from Romania. Um, lives in Denmark right now. That's pretty cool. Uh, and you came across her just from following her on Twitter?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, maybe we can get her on sometime. Uh, well, I don't want to spend too. We're just gonna read the interview. But it's quite well done. Oh, and here's your website, classicalodyssey.com. All right. Oh, what's this? Drakian warrior holding a Draco. Okay, that's a little bit Norse like. Oh, and this is the
That's
continuation of
just
the revenge story.
the last part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And now we're going to Prince Warung, the Bullet of the Faded Tin.
So
And
that's set in Sydney, and it's about convicts.
is this a submission?
This was a really old something written in ancient times in Australia.
Oh, okay.
So it would have
And
been printed in
if you didn't know it,
newspapers.
oh sorry.
No, I
I
was just
see.
saying it
And if
would have
it,
been printed in newspapers and magazines back then.
oh, okay, cool.
But that convict on the front, that picture, is an interesting
Hmm.
story because he was Irish and he was sent away to somewhere near Perth, I believe. So that's in Western Australia. I think he was sent out because he was Irish and whatever his opinions were, the English did not like it. So then some other Irish in New York were like, this is fucked. So they sail away in a ship to Perth, or this was Fremantle. Well, they sail away to wherever he is. They pick him up and his fellow Irish convicts, and they just sail away to the US, and he lives happily ever after in New York or something. So they just stole some convicts and went off.
Very Faustian.
But convict stories are
And,
really interesting. Like, my favorite convict was a cannibal. But I don't know if anyone's written any fiction. No, this man was ingenious. So the convict's name's Alexander Pierce, and he's in Tasmania, Sarah Island. Was it Maria Island? One of the two. And he escaped with a group of men. And as they travel, because that part of Tasmania, there's nothing's there. They didn't know anything about bush tucker, so they would just there's no food. So basically, they started to eat each other as they died, until at last there's only two left, and it's like late at night, and they build a fire. They can't go to sleep because as soon as one goes to sleep, the other one's going to have a go at him with an axe, and he'll be dead. So these two dudes can't sleep, and they're just warily keeping an eye on each other, you know. I'm imagining a scene of them sitting on opposite sides of a fire in the dead of the night, fighting off sleep, knowing the other wants to eat them. But yes, Alexander Pierce won. He seized the axe and killed the other dude. Obviously, everyone was disgusted and hauled him back to Maria Island, but he escaped again. And this time he specifically brought companions with him with specific plans to eat them in stages along the way. So he specifically had them there as walking dinner, basically. They ended up hanging him they hung him in Hobart, because cannibalism's going a bit far.
Yeah, this really dehumanizing, you know.
Yeah, I remember reading an account of like the British Navy, like rescuing some people, and it had come to light once they had rescued them that the people had eaten one of their companions. At that point, the captain of the ship just immediately summarily executed them all. Like, it's just it was so abhorrent to them, obviously.
That reminds me of what you just said. That reminds me of the Voyage of the Bounty.
Yes, that might even be what I'm thinking of.
Oh, well, in the Bounty, when he kicks off Bligh and the people that refuse to mutiny, and he puts them in that small dinghy, and they go sailing off. At some point, one of the crewmen's was like, when I die, eat me so you guys don't starve to death or whatever.
Right.
And they're like, nope, we're like as good solid Englishmen, we'll just die.
Right. Okay, so I wasn't thinking of that. No, yeah, that's a good one. No, yeah, we'll just die. It's better to do that than to break that taboo.
Yeah. I remember at one point they caught a seagull and they were like drinking its blood, because like taking sips of its blood, because that's all they had to drink. Which is like, imagine just drinking like root beer syrup. Like I don't know,
couldn't do it. Well, I guess when you're put in that situation, you're on the edge. You're going to do a lot of things that you wouldn't say you would do.
They did come across cannibal tribes when they were coming, when they were on their way, but they had to avoid them after that because they were like worried that more of them would be cannibals. But it's that interesting time period, I suppose. It referenced Norfolk Island. Is that the Norfolk Island that's now part of Australia?
See, I was Googling this passionately. It may very well be, but I'm not well versed in convict history. So I'm wondering if there was a convict settlement there, and then these particular people were brought from that convict settlement to be hung in Sydney.
Norfolk Island, it was a convict settlement at one point. Eventually, it was given by Queen Victoria to the people of Pitcairn Island, because Pitcairn Island is this little tiny island in the middle of the Pacific. And I think they ran out of, they had a population of 350. If you go look at the island on Google Maps, you'll see, hey, they're on the brink of running out of ability to like gather resources enough to feed everybody. So they petitioned the Queen. They're subjects of the Crown, obviously. and Queen Victoria offered Norfolk Island, and to this day, most of the people that were on Pitcairn Island, their descendants all live on Norfolk. There's still people on Pitcairn. I think around 60 of them, and most of them are really old. But actually, that could be where we start the revolution, because if we all move there, we'd be owning it.
farthest reaches.
Yeah. I was a big into Pitcairn Island back a couple years ago. Then I learned about the
We're gonna rename it to Bitcoin Island, and it'll be a libertarian paradise with crypto.
we'll use the tidal energy. But always that did catch my eye, and also how they spelled jail, guy.
Yeah, Gale.
With a G.
But that's just the way the British spell, isn't it not?
Yeah, well, it was. I don't know if it is new. I think they still have archaic place names, but I think they spell like we do. Otherwise,
Yeah, it's spelled differently, but I'm very used to that spelling because any kind of historic place you go, it's just full of that spelling.
it kind of reminds me of the GIF versus GIF controversy. You know?
Yeah.
How to pronounce that? Gale?
Gale.
You don't. What? Don't you say it gold?
Oh, we say like Gale.
It might just depend on which part of England you're from, right?
Yeah. Well, I think English is a strange one because
the O is before the A. So how can you say Gale when it's spelled G-O-A, goal?
Oh, it's it's Gale, G-A-O-L. I have it highlighted on the page right there.
Yeah, I can see that.
I guess it would depend on if you were using what's that thing called with the A and the E. Whatever.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, I know sometimes they join them together.
Oh yeah. That is a thing, I believe. I can't remember if AO was one, but anyways, let's move on, I suppose. The readers can go through that. Oh, this is much longer. Oh, here we go. The Adam and Eve fairy tale. Now, what can you tell us about this? Go ahead.
He runs something called Institute of England. He's trying to have a place where you can learn how to be English, what makes things English. So yeah, it's good work he's doing there. I've actually had something published with him. But with this particular story here, it's how fairies came to be according to English mythology, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I liked that is because it's kind of getting us all in touch with English history and myths.
Mm. And do you know who the artist is for this?
I mean, there was one listed when I took the photo, but
okay.
Yeah, I should probably start putting I can start putting the names on the pictures. Maybe I should do that if that's something people are very curious about.
You can always put it as a footnote or something at the end of at the bottom. If you're on if you go to page 37, you have the header and the footer there. You can just put it down there. It's like photo from citation there.
I like the way it's like the image is like, God's like pulling Eve out of Adam's back, and then it's like an innocent sort of cherub, like, you want an apple? And then Eve, and then Eve's like, yeah, check out this sweet fruit I have, and then
nothing could possibly go wrong.
Yeah, and then in the left, there's they're hiding in the bushes from I guess from God, and then there's the angel kicking them out. They're naked, and then there's the I don't, is that just God saying you can't come back at the bottom?
I think that's the implication. Probably it looks like it might be cut off there, but I would assume that the picture probably also is showing him clothing them. I'm not sure.
And also, you notice how it's green and left in the background, but as you come forward, it gets to just dirt. I don't know if the picture continues and it gets worse, but anyway, is that a unicorn on the right? It's just a horse.
I think it's
Well, I can't
just
see a
horse.
horn.
No, it might be a unicorn. No.
Yeah, I think it's just a horse. Kind of reminds. There's something Hieronymus Bosch about this.
Wait, what is God doing to them in the bushes back there?
Oh, he's pulling.
He's
pulling Eve
pulling
out
Like,
of.
see the
out
two
of
trees? Yeah,
Adam.
that.
Yeah, he's pulling Eve out of
Okay,
Adam.
that's a very sus scene.
Well, I mean, Adam looks like he's in pain.
Well, he put him to sleep, and then he took one of his ribs.
Oh, it's just that. Yeah, that makes sense. He's probably sleep. He's sleeping. He's not in pain.
Yeah.
It
is not good for
But
man
if you
to be
didn't
alone.
know there's that story, like, you would be in utter confusion.
Yes.
Do you see how there's something at Monty Python about that cloud?
There is. Why is there a guy's face in it? That's kind of funny.
It's God's face, I think.
Yeah, that's funny. Because he was floating over the waters, or was above the waters, or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, everything in this painting has a meaning, I suppose, right?
Yeah. It is not contextless. You'd have to go into this with some context, otherwise you'd be like, "This is meaningless." It's just kind of weird.
Yeah, because it's a story, you can kind of pick out the different parts of it, right? And then you're like, okay, well, you can see there's like a narrative being told in 2 dimensions, which is that's pretty good. Like the way that Adam's sort of like, oh God, I'm getting kicked out, and she's like, la 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 la.
Yeah, she's just chilling.
Yeah, she looks like Luna. Like she kind of has like the Luna Lovegood face from the Harry Potter series.
Yeah.
Anyways, so this is a submission.
Yeah.
So is this like he wrote this, but it's based on the medieval stories that people had come up with to explain the origin of the fairies in England.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I like that kind of thing, because sometimes the old language is very difficult to, like, sometimes the old English style is difficult to understand, so rewriting it and changing it a bit, it's good, because in some ways it makes it more accessible, for want of a better word.
Yes.
Recontextualizes it to our era.
Modern audiences. But I think it's interesting. It's funny because I grew up reading a lot of like Celtic fairy tales and stuff, and so it's interesting reading this, which is like, there was something that Tolkien lamented, which was that the English people did not really have a significant amount of what's the word, myth and legend. Almost all of their myth and legend came from outside, and then they just kind of grafted it in. And so this is kind of like another example of that, I would say, in some way, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Syncretism.
Yeah, syncretism for sure. Which obviously ends up why Tolkien ended up writing Lord of the Rings, because he wanted to create a mythology specifically for the English people. But yeah, I just find this was really interesting, because it's funny coming from, I come from a more Protestant tradition. We don't really do the syncretism thing as much, but I do find it pretty interesting to read it in this way.
Mm-hmm. That's true. The Catholics are pretty big into that syncretism. I suppose when this was, when was this? So this has been adapted. So
this would probably be prior to the Protestant Reformation that this would have been not written, but like the original mythology would have come about.
Yeah, during the well, it was still Catholic, I suppose. Yeah.
And I would bet it would probably have come up out of the people rather than be anything put down to them. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like bards or people would have come up with this, or even parents to their children, and then it spreads around.
Makes sense if you spend thousands of years as druids, and then it doesn't just go away.
No.
All right. Well, let's move on to The Good Hippopotamus by Charles Dickens.
If you
Charles
Google
has
that
been
story, you can't find it.
Charles Dickens is a prolific a writer, obviously. Friend of
Like he wrote
friend of the
novels and stuff,
channel.
but I was unaware he wrote short stories.
How did you get a hand?
What did you just say? Charles Dickens was a friend of the channel.
Yeah. No, I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
actually, I was talking to him last week. Yeah, we went down for a pint the other day. Yeah, great guy.
Unfortunately, he's long past. So,
But yeah,
in peace.
I didn't know he wrote short stories, so I was really interested when I found out he wrote short stories because he writes his novels he writes them so well and they're continuously being reprinted and everyone likes them. And yeah, he's actually written quite a few short stories.
How did you?
But I
come
like this
across
one because hippopotamuses. This is really hard to find online if you try to Google it because the problem is he wrote under different pseudonyms, short stories put in different magazines. Obviously, we were printed, no internet back then. But I actually bought a book at a second-hand shop that was full of short stories. So when I knew what to look for, I ended up being able to find it online. But it's because I believe for some time there was like discussions as to whether or not he'd written something, just because there's pseudonyms being used and this stuff is printed in some ancient magazine. So it's really hard to connect it to the author.
I was thinking for a minute that you, in that case, you would have like typed it out because I thought maybe you just couldn't find it at all online and had to type this all out by hand.
Because I knew what I was looking for specifically, I found it like one place, some unknown corner of the internet. But I could have typed it out. It's not very long, but I would just prefer to not. No, that's the problem with it. It was some kind of study guide. So the name of the main character, Mr. Cannoner, it put his whole name in massive capital letters, and I was like, what? So I have to go over the whole document and make his name normal.
Well, that's just something they used to do back in the day.
Whoever put it onto the internet had made just the name of the main character in massive letters, and it looked ridiculous because you would scroll through and there's just this massive name shouting at you from the page.
Yeah. I believe that was like a style, though.
There was a style, yeah. Like if you read old books, sometimes they make the names really big. I guess.
But I have that in a book, and it's not big.
Yeah.
Well, it's to differentiate. So I mean, obviously not everyone does it, but it's usually to differentiate for the reader which is actually a name, because it might be a foreign name, and you might not know that this particular word is a part of the name and not part of something else or a place name. So I mean, yeah, if that makes sense. Maybe there's a better explanation, but I've heard that one. What do you think of this story, Mr. Sunflower?
I didn't really get it, to be honest. But maybe
I've actually found that, like, when people aren't English, they don't understand the story.
Okay, how about you go into it then, Shieldmaiden?
Well, essentially, this man who is in charge of animals at a zoo wants to become famous, so he thinks what better way than to use public money to make a statue of this hippo, because this hippo is the best animal in the zoo, he decides. So this is basically describing that situation and his attempts to do so and how they end up for him. But I think it's supposed to be some kind of satire or that kind of thing. So I think when people aren't, because the English way of talking is sometimes understated and subtle, and they're saying one thing but they're meaning another. And this story is very much like that.
Interesting. And now we're going to your feature, Shieldmaiden, Druid Without a Home, Chapter 4, Starboard Sea. And this is
yes.
obviously another painting you've stolen. Just kidding.
Yes. I didn't actually realize there was a dragon leaning out of the rocks up there for the longest time. Because it just blends in, but it's an interesting picture. There's a lot going on.
it kind of looks like it almost could be part of The Hobbit, you know.
Yeah. But I
So did
don't
you
know. I
see
like
that
the
dragon
dragon
right
looks
away?
very thin, and I did
I saw it
not.
right
I
away.
actually didn't notice it until he pointed it out to me.
It's a thin
Yeah,
mutant
sorry.
head.
Yeah, it's a thin dragon. He hasn't been eating well.
He's watching his weight. He stopped drinking
He's
corn
trying to be a
syrup and
skinny
soy
legend.
slop.
A skinny legend.
Yes,
My
yes.
daughter used that.
He's,
My
he's
daughter said
given
that
up
to
the
my cat.
McDonald's.
One of my cats, she like we got these two kittens, and so we had to feed them all kitten food because if you put the food down, they'll just all eat whatever, right? You can't give like this cat kitten food and that cat adult food. They'll just like kind of cross, and you want the kitten to definitely eat the kitten food because if they don't, they could grow their organs could grow all messed up because it doesn't have enough nutrients. Um, but you don't want to give your old cat kitten food because that's just too much and they get fat. So anyways, I resolved to just give the kitten food until like they're a year old, then I'll switch it. But then I'm hoping my other cat will lose the weight. But my daughter kept calling my cat that got kind of not super fat, but definitely fatter than she used to be, a skinny legend, like to boost her confidence. And that just when you said that, that's just reminded me of that. I had no reference to that before my daughter said it.
So
So,
fun.
yeah. So, anyways, go on. Tell us about your story, Shieldmaiden, and where we're at now in it, in the arc.
There's more dragons, naturally. This time less friendly, but kind of friendly at the same time.
Hmm.
Do you guys read it? What do you think of it?
I did. I enjoyed it. It was let's say a more compared to the other fantasy story, which was more like dark and grim. I found this one more like, despite the content, obviously somebody's like drowning and they have to save them. A little bit more like grounded and lighthearted in that regard. And I don't know. I just really enjoyed the imagery of the roiling seas and the fight against nature, I guess, in that regard. And
Yeah, and
I'm trying to
seeing
write
nature
it
as sort of like a trickster.
yeah,
I'm trying to write wholesome fantasy, so that's one of my goals. But at the same time, I was like, I don't want it to be too much like a child's story. So in like 2 stories' time, he's going to leave home and obviously still meet dragons and megafauna as well. I have megafauna in the story then too.
Hmm. I always like reading when I'm reading this, like the names and stuff that pop out. It kind of matches my a lot of my interests.
Because I just
It's an
searched.
interesting.
I actually started writing it after Amazon came out with their Rings of Power bullshit. So I'd started to write a fan fiction of Lord of the Rings, but then when they came out with that, I saw what an abomination fan fiction is. And I decided I would change it and make it uniquely mine. So then I was just searching like Anglo-Saxon or Norman or Celtic names, and that's just where all the names, everything in here comes from.
Yeah, cool. How many more is this? Because this is part 4, chapter 4. Is this going to be? Are you going to make a book after?
I have written 20 chapters.
wow.
Oh, okay.
But as soon as next year starts, there's going to be a different running story at the end. So we're not going to read the whole of Degore's life in this magazine.
Then that'll be, you're gonna collate that and print it as a book then, or ship
I
it as a
do
book?
want it. I do want it as a book.
Yeah.
So I can say, if you're dying to know how Degore ends, you're going to have to buy the book. That's so mean of me.
Tricky.
Well, it's just I think 20
but actually,
chapters
it's
is a lot.
Lindy.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's what,
Say
sorry?
again.
Oh, it's Lindy. This is a tradition. I don't know if you know what Lindy means, but it's a long-standing tradition of how to get people to buy stuff. They actually still do it in Japan. what they'll do is they'll take a book and then they'll make like maybe 10 chapters of it into a manga so that people get hooked into the story. And then they're like, okay, no more manga. You got to go buy the books. You got to go buy the books. So it's still it's a very effective strategy. Once you got people hooked, now you've got them where you want them.
But I just think 20 stories over the course of 2 years is kind of a bit much. And the reason I started with writing about Dagor is because, starting a magazine is a lot of work, and I have control over this story, so I can guarantee it's into the magazine.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a bit of a strategy.
No, I think it's a great idea, and I really like that. I'm gonna have to go back and read the other parts of the story.
Well, they're all available on the website.
Oh, and what website is it? Oh, I see it there. It's at the bottom. Scroll.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I put that, and I put your sunflower.
Yes, actually, I wanted to make a comment because I just tried to go to my own website. Do put www. If you don't put www, it doesn't work because the link that I provided just goes to it doesn't work, and I was like, oh no. But yeah, if you just put www, that'll take you there.
Okay. So hold on here. There you go, updated. There, www.sunflower society. Okay. Cool. And now we're on to the Longhouse Pin. A reply to the Longhouse Pin. Sorry.
I want to know.
Did you write that one?
Yeah. No. So that was a contribution, but I want to know what you guys think of it.
Reminded me of there's this. I mean, this is obviously English, but there's this book called the Carmina Burana. Are you guys familiar with this?
I am not.
Okay, so it's like this 15th century. I can't remember now. It's off the top of my head. I think it was like 1430s or something like that. It was believed to be written, and it's in Latin, obviously, but it's these like little stories and songs that can be sung. And the idea behind it is there was this duke, I believe, or a count in the area, and he wanted to preserve information. And he thought, well, I'll write a book of songs, or I'll get a book of songs written. And there's all these stories about the Castellan and the priests and stuff like that, and sort of their roles in society. And this is one called it's not called the Wheel of Fortune, and basically it's a song about don't get too haughty, don't get too high and mighty about yourself, because everyone sort of goes through this cycle in their lives, and they get crushed by the Wheel of Fortune. And so the Wheel of Fortune turns, and you're sort of at the bottom, and then it turns, and you start going up, and then you get to the top. Well, you don't stop at the top. Sort of Damocles is always hanging over your head.
That's interesting.
And then it rolls back down. Well, it's a really old motif, right? It's probably been around since the wheel was invented in some sense, right? But there's obviously a famous music, classical music that's been done. What's that one? Something Luna, but
Claire de Lune.
No, let me look it up here. Carl Off is the guy that turned it into a sort of symphony orchestra. So let me look this up here. So I wanted to. Oh, Fortuna, that's what it's called. The name wouldn't pop in my head.
Oh yeah.
It's like that song that goes, "Oh Fortuna." It's really epic.
Yeah.
But they don't even know if that's how it was like the new symphony, if that's how it was done, but that's how we do it. So, but yeah, so it kind of reminded me of a lot of the stories from that book. That book's quite large. That's just the O Fortuna is just one section of it. But yeah, that's what this reminded me of. How about you guys?
It made me think of who was that poet? Sorry, my brain is shutting down. Give me a second.
How about you?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll try and find
Shieldmaiden.
I don't know if it's being. This is a poem by a man for other men, I think. Well, I mean, he feels long housed, doesn't he? I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess he's been putting that into the anthropomorphizing it or de-anthropomorphizing it into an animal. You know, this is a common motif in English poetry.
I was gonna say it reminds me of Rudyard Kipling's
Hmm.
writing. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's clearly speaking about the concept of the longhouse, safetyism, and the modern, I guess, feminist way of doing things, or the whatever you want to call that.
Those are baby corncrakes, by the way.
Okay, I had to look up what a corncrake was because I'd never seen one. They don't live around
But yeah, they're
here.
only in some parts of Scotland now.
They're
They
sort of like a
migrate
quail,
between
it seems.
Scotland.
Okay.
They migrate between Scotland and Africa.
Wow.
Oh,
It's a long way to
that's
go.
Because they don't stay here over winter.
Right.
I think
Yeah,
it's
why
somewhere
would
in
you?
the Congo.
Wow.
But yes, the babies are black until they lose their down and then they turn brown.
Huh.
Are they? So the babies, are they raised in England?
I think so, because they're here for the summer. They only go away
Okay,
when winter comes.
so they just they stay in England for the summer, then they head back on vacation.
We have a lot of birds like that go down to Mexico.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, even Canada geese, they go to England.
It must make conservation
Do
hard, though. Why do they?
Oh
Why,
yeah.
I
Well,
didn't know they come to England.
there's these. Yeah, when I was in Buxton
'Cause
a
I've
couple
been-
years ago, there was a bunch of fucking Canadian geese by the pond and shitting all over the place like they always do.
They're the worst
Like,
Hey, I
creatures.
saw a
I
black
hate them.
swan.
they've
I saw a
ruined
black
all our
swan in
lakes.
England.
I only know of like a couple lakes that are still good around here that you can actually do without like just being poisoned.
Yeah. Well, I was at
Why is there so
one of the,
many?
you
Are you being plagued by them?
oh, they're brutal because there's like all these conservation laws, um, and so you can't like kill them. I bet you could probably eat them. They'd probably be a little bit,
I went
gamey.
to like one of my local city like councils or whatever meetings because the farmers were complaining because they were eating all of the corn. They were eating all the like the seeds and everything, and they were asking, "Can we please just kill these? Can we just take our shotguns and kill these birds because they're just destroying all the crops. They're destroying everything." And they did get permission eventually, but like they're absolute destructive creatures. I don't know about I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, Canadian geese
My
do not like.
Yeah, my wife we're at a lake and she's from Brazil and like my kids my kids have my genetics and they're in that you know the lake that's like in hold on here. I'm just gonna put in the private chat so we don't dox ourselves.
So Canada geese are not native to England, but they've been introduced to various places in Europe.
Don't they
But they're not native.
migrate? They don't migrate there?
Well, it says they've been introduced. If they were naturally migratory, they wouldn't be considered.
No, yeah, they naturally migrate down to South America usually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty smart that way, but yeah, they shit all over the lake. Anyways, my kids are playing in that lake that I mentioned there, Sunflower, and which it was gross, but like I remember doing it when I was a kid, and it wasn't really a problem. It was just I was like, oh, it's just like
No,
a murky lake. I would never do it again.
it didn't
But
need to be that bad.
my wife got splashed with the water, and like this lake when we were kids, like everyone would go to it. Like it was like packed in the summer. Anyways, my kids to put water in a squirt gun and squirted my wife from like the who was like on the shore, and she got like an infection by this parasite.
Oh
And,
no.
and she had to get like progesterone and stuff like that or whatever it is to some
Yeah,
steroid to get rid of it.
that lake is like absolutely just disgusting, and like because it's actually two lakes combined into one, right? And then so there's the other half, and that one's also being destroyed by the geese. I don't
Yeah.
understand why they're protected species because they're absolutely just menaces to society, disease carriers, and they will
I
fight
think
you.
there might have been in the past they might have had like very low populations, but clearly the conservation laws should be changed if they've
that's
become a
the
menace now.
yeah that's what I would
They
say.
sh-
Anyway, we
they have no
got left
predators.
behind.
Well, they have no predators. They should just be culled.
We are the
Well, they do
predator.
this thing where, yeah, they do this thing where they like add all their eggs. Just like they go to their nest and they like flip the egg over, and then that makes it so it won't develop. But that's just too hands-on. Like you just got to get the guns out. Anyways, we don't advocate for violence officially. So that's the. So you can view all this at corncrakemag.com. Anything further you guys want to talk about?
No, thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed the conversation and reading through the magazine. Good luck on your continued creation of this magazine.
Yes, issue 5 is out the 1st of July, and I am open to submissions or suggestions of old stuff that you reckon could be of interest.
And how would people
we haven't.
contact you with that? On your website?
So teamcorncrake@gmail.com, or yes, everything's on there. You can reach out to me on the social media if that works easier. But yeah, the submission details are on the website. But if you just want to get in touch, then yeah, Twitter works at CornCrakeMag. I'm on Instagram and Facebook as well.
All right, and Mr. Sunflower, and are you working on anything right now?
Well, I've been trying to get the next edition of the magazine going. I haven't gotten really enough submissions, and so I think I need to take a step back and plan it again. We were trying to go for stepping away. What are the one I've been trying for now? It looks like a year. May 12th was when I first posted it on Twitter. Was for Veterans of the Culture War, but I was thinking I need to find a different, more inspiring edition. But if you do want to submit, or if you do want to check us out, check out our website, and you feel like you would be interested, we do have an email that you can contact, Sunflower Society Mag at proton.me, and we'd be happy to take submissions there. Otherwise, you can just follow us at x.com/Himawari Society. That's HIMAWARI Society. Or on Twitter or on Telegram at t.me/Sunflower Society.
How frequently do you release new mags?
I wanted to, good question. I had wanted to do it basically every quarter was my goal. However, going by purely submissions of people and then writing stuff myself, maintaining a full-time job and everything else that I do in my life, it was pretty difficult in that regard. But I thought, every quarter would be fine. So I managed to do that for 2 quarters, and then I kind of got my wheels stuck in the mud, and I didn't really get it back out. But I do want to pick the project back up again and try and get one out for this year. In which case, I might just try and do it every year, and then just try and make a big one out of it. I think would be a fun thing to do. I might take a page out of your book, which is to take other things that have already been written and then add it to it. In which case, I might go out and find people who've written Substacks and then collate it, shorten ones that are too long, things like that. We'll see what I end up doing.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there that obviously I can't print. But if I come across stuff, I'll send it your way, because
yeah, please do.
There's good stuff, but it's just a bit political, so obviously I can't use it. But it might be of interest.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, no, you were saying you're all about the positive vision and stuff, and that's kind of where I'm at as well. I'm like, we got to get out of the doomer mindset. We got to come white-pilled again. So
yeah,
you have to come out of the darkness at some point into the light.
Exactly. Well, that's why my latest edition that I was trying to do was escaping the culture war, because I feel like we got ourselves stuck in the trenches and are just getting bombarded over and over again. It's not healthy.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll wrap it up for now. Stay on for a minute, guys. But
Sounds good.
Everyone, have a good rest of your weekend. Still morning here. In England, you're approaching the evening, so
it's still
at some point,
early afternoon. The rest of the day is left.
All right. Well, you take her easy, and let's see you next month, Shieldmaiden.
Yeah, I'll see you then.
Thanks for having me.